Nanny Crosby. Woo! What's happening, y'all? Floyd House Flicks, Blacks in Cinema Sundays. I just finished watching Lackawanna Blues. It's the film adaptation of a play that was put out in 2005. It was an HBO movie, executive produced by Halle Berry. Very moving story about community and the way it used to be in the old days. Even when I was a kid, I mean, there was always a matriarchal conversation, patriarchal conversation. There was always people that we looked to as community leaders that actually helped in our communities of color. Um, Before I go so deep, thanks for joining me on Blacks in Cinema Sundays. This is Floyd House Flicks. Floyd House Flicks. Nothing's changed. Please like, subscribe, and share. Come on in and let's talk about this movie, Lackawanna Blues. It was a movie directed by George C. Wolfe. And really, it was a story about Reuben Santiago Hudson. It was an autobiographical work that was adapted from a play that Reuben Santiago Hudson did. It was a one-man show for the most part, back in the early 2000s, and it starred S. Epatha Merkerson as Nanny Crosby. She was an amazing woman, amazing leader in the community. Everybody went to her when there were issues, when there was anything that needed to be addressed, when there was anybody that needed help, needed food, needed anything, she was there. Terrence Howard, who played her husband Bill, a man 17 years her junior. But, that was Nanny. She had that kind of draw on people. Jeffrey Wright, he played Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul had a checkered past, so to speak. Nanny ran a boarding house. It was a known boarding house in Lackawanna, 32 Watson Avenue. That was the address in Lackawanna, New York in the 50s. And Mr. Paul, quiet man, but as one of the many interesting people that were at this boarding house, Mr. Paul had a dark past, and he caught his wife with another man, and let's just say things went bad. There was Macy Gray. She played Pauline, an interesting character within herself. Pauline she was fast with the switchblade, and she was married to Jimmy, played by the late great Michael K. Williams. And let's just say they didn't have a problem pulling razors on each other. Yeah, that's love. Louis Gossett Jr. as Olam Taylor, Ernie Hudson as Dick Barry, Rosie Perez made a cameo in the movie. Mos Def, the rapper Mos Def, he was in it. He was a band leader. There was a lot to be seen and a lot to be recognized as a person of color who grew up in that environment, and you had to see it. If you saw it, you recognized it. As I was doing some research on the film, I saw an article. It says, "It takes a village," the saying goes, but if you're a member of the motley crew of characters in the 1950 Lackawanna, New York, then you might say it takes a boarding house and a generous woman to keep everyone in line. That woman is Nanny, the beating heart of Reuben Santiago's tender and vibrant autobiographical one-man show, Lackawanna Blues, which opened Thursday night in Manhattan Theater in a Manhattan Theater Club, a production at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater. It proves to be a winsome performance and a masterclass in storytelling despite a few flat notes. Santiago, who also wrote and directed the production, brings us to Lackawanna, where he grew up under the tutelage of a Miss Rachel Crosby, the landlord and proprietor of two boarding houses, and whom everyone around the town knows as Nanny. Don't let the affectionate moniker fool you, though. She will calmly challenge you. She will calmly challenge you and abuse and her abusive husband and threaten to kill the unscrupulous lover of mistreating a child while serving up her famous everything soup and cornbread. In other words, she's one tough cookie. That's what I got from it. Um, we knew women like this in our community. Um, they definitely made themselves available no matter what. There were moments where people didn't have a place to sleep, people didn't have food to eat. And fortunately, in our earlier communities, when people actually cared, they had some place to go. If they really needed some place to go, there was always someone available. Thanks to director George Wolfe for bringing this distinguished cast of some of the best Black American actors together. This ensemble group, under his tight direction, helped create the right atmosphere in which the action takes place. Of course, none of this would have been possible if Ruben Santiago hadn't written this wonderful play. Working with Mr. Wolfe, perhaps the best theater director of his generation, and they have opened the play in a way that evokes that not too distant past where a child lives under the influence of Miss Crosby when his own parents are not around to take care of him. Miss Crosby becomes an adoring mother of little Ruben, who is also played as an adult by Hill Harper. Um, in a way, it represents her reward for having lost her own daughter. Her own daughter died of pneumonia early on, and after her daughter's passing, she took care of the community. Unfortunately, there is no time to develop some of the characters as the action solely concentrates in the enhancement of the relationship between Nanny and young Ruben. Played with such charm by a young Marcus Call Franklin, who is a natural. The only thing that could have been done differently is the voice narration and sometimes intrusive. I'm not going to go into that because those things did not bother me. Again, I agree that Marcus Call Franklin, who played the young Ruben Santiago Hudson, he did a wonderful job. All the characters embodied someone of our community. It was there. You saw Ruben Santiago was actually in the film himself. He played a character who went to war, and as war does, he came back affected from it. He was a person who had to deal with the deceased members of the military that would come back, and he would have to bury them. Something that someone who has been in any conflict, war conflict, would have to relate to. There was another character played by Saul Williams, who was actually a soldier in war. And again, as war does, he came back truly changed. He was not all there, as they say. The effect of the war and the death that war produces caused him to become a drug-addled, confused individual who would really just stand outside and shake his keys next to his head, and it almost made him autistic. He would have to have something to focus on, so he would stand out and shake his keys. And in one scene, he lost his keys and he lost his shit. And he's running around, somebody got to give me my MF keys. Where are my keys? And he's swinging around a rake, breaking stuff. Unfortunately, Nanny had his keys and was able to talk him down as he put the keys on the counter. And his keys on the counter, he picks them up and he starts shaking them. He's like, oh, my keys. But as he made such a scene, they went and got Bill, Nanny's husband. And he came and grabbed this man and threw him on the floor and was about to beat him. And Nanny stopped him, told him, no, no, and he didn't. So it was really a story of community that really had an impact on me. I've seen this movie many times. I won't say many times, I've seen it a few times. And again, I've seen these movies as a younger person, and maybe because we're watching films like this because it's suggested, or it's black cinema, which is something that draws us in. We watch these things and it doesn't necessarily resonate because maybe we're moving too fast ourselves. Maybe our brains are moving too fast and we're not taking the moment to take a tick and actually sit back and enjoy this beautiful work of art. Um, Again, I thought Lackawanna Blues brought so much to the conversation of community, and that's something that's hugely lacking in this day and age. Not too many people care enough about other people. This is a very selfish world we live in right now, and there are a lot of people that need help and that need caring for, that just don't get it because it's just not the structure of the world. And you speak from a place of concern. When you come from a place of concern, a place of compassion, a place of caring, you will always have change, and you can affect change. You can be a, a sponsor of change, a sponsor of growth, a sponsor of community. If we could get that back unencumbered, the world could change immensely. Um, as this was a true story, again, the 1950s, a true story, it it just shows that as we as African Americans or black people were dealing with the struggle of being in America, a lot of these people in this movie or in this story had to migrate from the south and head to the north to find peace. I find it to be very interesting that even though they found the peace they were looking for, the damage that they had, the life that they had experienced that caused the damage that they have to exist with, it's not something very easily removed. Just because you remove yourself from a space, then you have to heal yourself. And I appreciate people like Nanny Crosby, who gave them a feeling that they were important, that they mattered, that their lives were worth something. And there were some people who had moved far ahead. You had the Dick Barry character that Ernie Hudson portrayed. He was slick. He wasn't a slick stir per se, but he made something of himself, and he really got himself together and was portrayed as someone to be respected, not in a fear sense or anything like that. It's just he was clean. There was there was a line in the movie. It doesn't matter. Now this was cool to me because I'm a sneakerhead. So there was a line in the movie that said it didn't matter what you did. There was a big party, right? This is where Most Def showed up in the movie. It's a big band and a party and dance and everything. Everybody was dressed to the nines. But there was a line that said it didn't matter what you had on from the ankles up because the shoes made the rules. The shoes made the rules. I think that was the line. And to me, that was slick because as a New Yorker, as this is in Lackawanna, New York, it was really about your feet. What you had on your feet said everything. If you had a slick shoe game, there's nobody gonna tell you nothing. You was gonna do everything that goes along with being slick and looking clean. That's all coming your way. So it's just part of the deal. And at a latter portion of the movie, Nanny was diagnosed with cancer, and she was in the hospital. And little Ruben, who is now an adult, comes back to Lackawanna, and he goes to see Nanny in the hospital, and he's talking to Nanny, and he's almost willing her back to health. Almost. She's actually sleeping when he goes into the room, and she's pretty much out of it. And he's just laying on her hand saying, Nanny, come on, Nanny, come on, Nanny, come on. And he's talking to her, trying to encourage her to come to and maybe get better and come home, as people do when they have loved ones in the hospital. But in this case, he's talking to her, and actually, at some point, she opens her eyes. And then she was able to leave the hospital and go home. And once she got home, immediately she starts talking about things that are going on in the community. Oh, it's Miss Anna Mae's wake is today, ain't it? Make sure we go over there and do this. Where's Billy? Oh, we got to go make sure Billy got this, that, and the other thing. And Ruben says to her, Nanny, please, just stop. Just stop. And Nanny looks at him directly and says, I'm all right. This is what I do. And you had to fall back and respect that, because that's who she was and that's what she did. That was Nanny. And then what they did that I thought was special is they pulled her up as Nanny started to get into it, they stopped her and pulled her up on what looked like a step or a podium, not a podium, a step or a raised area. And she's standing there, and everyone just starts pinning money to her. Just starts pinning 20s and just starts pinning money to her. And as they do it, they look at her and they say, thank you. Thank you. She was just flooded with thank yous and respect. And it was a very moving scene, very touching. And, I'm sure that if they could have done more, they would have done more, because this woman, again, was an amazing fixture in her community. And yeah, Lackawanna Blues was all right, man. That movie, when I say that with all respect, that movie was all right. That movie was very good. And I'm glad I got to rewatch it. And also, I'm glad I got to have this conversation about it. Um, I think this will wrap up our Blacks in Cinema Sunday. Again, we're going to be doing one movie from this point forward. One. I think that this is the way that it's going to be. And I feel good about it. And I hope you feel good about it. And I hope that this was something that you got something from. If you haven't seen Lackawanna Blues, I don't think it has a Blu-ray. I'm not sure if it has a Blu-ray or not. But I watched it from a DVD that I've had for many, many years. And thank you so much for joining me on this uh, Blacks in Cinema Sunday. And we're going to do a 100 person giveaway once we get 100 subscribers set to our Floyd House Flicks YouTube channel. We're moving along, and as soon as I get 100 subscribers, I'm going to pick someone from random and send you a cool movie pack. It is I got the movies. Trust me when I say. So I'll put something together for you, and it will be impressive. So thank you so very much for joining me. Floyd House Flicks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit that bell. I never remember to say hit the bell. It's just one of those things. I need to say hit that bell, right? I don't know. So we're growing, and thank you for helping us to grow. Floyd House Flicks in the building. Blacks in Cinema Sunday. We'll see you next Sunday. And again, I don't know what I'm going to play. We'll see. We'll see how it works. Monday, join us on Monday for the physical media commute. I will be doing that physical media commute. Remember, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All things done. Thank you so very much. See you next Sunday. Salute, Blacks in Cinema Sunday. Floyd House Flicks.